America votes, and it is now a waiting game for the presidential candidates, watching as those results start to roll in for that path to the White House.
Our Scripps News reporters are at both candidates' campaign headquarters, and we want to start with Haley Boole. She's live in West Palm Beach, Florida, where former President Trump will be tonight.
They believe, we are told tonight, that rural voter turnout is up and urban turnout is down. Data points they believe are beneficial for Trump. In Pennsylvania, anecdotally, they believe Red County turnout looks good. In Georgia, they believe that they are seeing an energized base. This comes after the former president spent the final days of his campaign really hammering his message of himself as the change agent, particularly on immigration and the economy, while casting blame for discontent on Vice President Kamala Harris. But what we saw in the final days was also the former president make allegations of cheating without evidence and encouraging strong voter turnout today. And tonight he has shared unfounded claims around Philadelphia and Detroit in particular. That comes after earlier today, after voting himself, he said he thought the election had been fair so far.
Let's go on the scene to the swing state of Wisconsin. The state's 10 electoral college votes are expected to play a critical role in deciding the winner of the presidential election. So let's bring in somebody who is probably the best person to talk about this with. Charles Benson, the Dean of Midwest Politics with Scripps News Milwaukee, joins us now live on the scene. Charles, so good to have you. Wisconsin is one of the big swing states to watch. We've broken this down a little bit, but I'm curious to know from your perspective, why is this such a critical swing state and what could happen here?
All right, so let me walk you through why you need to watch what's going to happen in Wisconsin on election night. Look, in 2020, when Joe Biden won, he carried Wisconsin and what is known as the Blue Wall, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. In 2016, Donald Trump won Wisconsin and carried the Blue Wall to get to the White House. So what are the possibilities of things that could happen on election night? If you concede for a moment here that the 7 battleground states are the ones that you see here in white, if you then concede that Harris, Vice President Harris, will get all the blue states that Joe Biden got in 2020, and Donald Trump will get all the red states that he got in 2020, Harris, is now up by 7 electoral votes. If Harris can take the blue wall states, she gets to 270. 270 gets you to the White House. If Donald Trump can take the blue wall, he doesn't get to 270. So that's why we're going to be watching what happens in Wisconsin. Let me walk you through this scenario. What if we know on election night that all the other states have been decided? Let's say Donald Trump gets Pennsylvania. Let's say Kamala Harris gets Michigan, and then they split those other states down below that we talked about. Wisconsin is still left on the board with those 10 electoral votes. That's the second smallest prize out of the 7 swing states, Nevada being the smallest at 6. So this is why it could come down to Wisconsin on election night or the day after, depending on when we get all the votes counted.
Now we want to head to Washington, D.C. to check in with our team covering Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign. And that's where we find Scripps News reporter Stephanie Liebergen. Stephanie, what are you hearing from the Harris team tonight?
Well, it is confidence the Harris and Walz team is expressing. They are pointing to some specific numbers, especially in Pennsylvania, the biggest electoral vote prize of all of the battleground states. They say they're seeing high Puerto Rican turnout in Philadelphia. They say they're seeing high college student turnout at campuses across the state, and that certainly is something that the Harris-Walz teams think could be good news for them.
What's on voters' minds today where you are?
It starts with immigration. This is something that former President Trump has hit on in a lot of his campaign ads, and Vice President Harris has hit back on, talking about the border bill that the former president allegedly hammered down in Congress and stopped in order to have something to campaign on. On the flip side, though, former President Trump talks about why the presidency, President Biden, hasn't used executive action to handle the border, which he wound up doing back in May.
Former President Donald Trump is spending election night in West Palm Beach, Florida.
And that's where we find Scripps News reporter Nathaniel Reed. lead. So, Nathaniel, what are you hearing from the Trump campaign with just a few hours until the polls close?
They're feeling pretty good heading into election night. They say that they have numbers showing them that urban turnout is down and rural turnout is up, which would be believed to help the Trump campaign. Additionally, they have some anecdotal good numbers from the state of Pennsylvania. That's going to be a crucial battleground state here. The former president spoke with reporters briefly earlier today after casting his ballot in Palm Beach, Florida, where he lives. He told us that he would accept the results of the election if it's fair. Take a listen.
If I lose an election, if it's a fair election, I'd be the first one to acknowledge it.